At this point in time, I would like to extend my sincere and heartfelt gratitude to the Polytechnic University of the Philippines, the Institute for Science and Technology Research of this university, to AGHAM, Advocates of Science and Technology for the People, and to all of us here present, mga estudyante, mga mag-aaral, mga dalug guro, lughasang guro, mga siyentipiko at mga scholar ng bayan. Magandang hapon po at salamat. We ask ourselves why the Philippines has been left behind by the dust of our Asian neighbors in industrialization and in development. While some 40 to 60 years ago, they were just picking themselves up from the ground after the Second World War. We ask ourselves, why is it that countries like Japan, Korea, and Taiwan were able to successfully modernize their economies despite their lack of arable land and natural resources compared to ours? Most of us would probably blame, and this is also true, we will blame corruption, the lack of genuine land reform, our service-oriented economy primarily sustained by providing other countries with cheap labor. Yet, most of the countries that I mentioned earlier, Japan, Korea, Taiwan, experiences these problems too. So what is then the secret of these countries? Why did they succeed? I will hazard to give one guess. They rigorously invested in science and technology. They harness whatever little resources they have in developing infrastructure and industries manned by people who are recipients of quality, state-sponsored education with emphasis on science and mathematics. Friends, the society we live in today owes a lot from the succession of scientific advancement that form the backbone of human civilization. For example, we conquered darkness when we discovered fire, and that is science. We conquered our physical limitation with the use of tools. That is also science. We conquered distance when we invented the wheel. And then, we conquered human weaknesses through medicine. We also conquered nature through agriculture and engineering. We conquered distance, once again, alongside time with modern telecommunications. We are now even in the process of conquering space. Science helped us push the boundaries further and further, and it allowed us to understand the workings of the universe that we live in. And in the process, it enabled us to conquer evil. Science is more than just the systematic study of knowledge. It is in itself a potent weapon, capable of building as well as capable of destroying. To harness it is the key, therefore, to progress and genuine development. It is therefore expected that our government, in the interest of advancing the lives of the Filipino people, should invest heavily in scientific education, research and development, and safeguard the welfare of those who are involved in it. Yet, sadly, my friends, it seems not to be the case at all. For example, our unsung heroes, the astronomers and meteorologists of Pag-asa, as well as the geologists, volcanologists, and seismologists of PHIVOLCS, who risk lives and limbs in observing disaster phenomena to keep us safe and informed, are often forced to look for better career opportunities abroad, despite their desire to serve our country just to feed their families. Scientist professors, due to the lack of endowments from their respective universities, often, pardon for using this word, often prostitute themselves to different institutions in order to obtain grants to fund their researches, compromising their fields of scientific research in the process to the whims of their financiers. Much worse, however, is the fact that some of our scientists have been deliberately repressed by the state through its agents under the false and malicious claims that they are using their professions as a cover for some seditious activities, despite strong evidence to the contrary. Take the case of Professor Kim Gargar, for example. He is a physicist working in Mindanao as a result of past typhoons like Typhoon Sendo and Typhoon Pablo. He was arrested last year. He was detained under non-bailable trumped-up charges of attempted murder and illegal possession of firearms and explosives by members of the 67th Infantry Battalion of the Philippine Army last year. Currently, he is on bail as the evidence presented by the military against him is weak. Then there is also the case of University of the Philippines professor, the botanist Leonard Coe, whose death anniversary we are going to commemorate 5 days from now. What happened to Leonard Coe? He was killed along with his two companions, one of whom is a forester, in an alleged encounter between the New People's Army and the Army's 19th Infantry Battalion in the forest of Leyte 4 years ago. Criminal charges were already filed against the responsible Army soldiers because it was found out that, in fact, there was no encounter at all. It was a case of mistaken intelligence. They were mistaken to be members of the New People's Army and they were shot at. So charges are now filed against these Army soldiers. But no justice is yet in sight, as the Department of Justice recently downgraded the charges from murder, which was the case filed by the relatives, to simple homicide. And it also did not include in the charge sheet the responsible officials of these Army soldiers. My friends, scientists who dedicated themselves to the advancement of knowledge, in this case, are treated as criminals, while corrupt officials who steal billions and billions from our national coffers are given preferential treatment. I did not relate to you how this Napoleon scandal is affecting our national lives and how the officials involved in this billions, hundreds of billions scam are being treated differently from our scientists. Yet this is only part of the problem, a much greater problem. Inasmuch as we are slowly reducing our current pool of scientists with a mix of deliberate repression and neglect, we do not also take steps to ensure that the next generation will take over and to continue their work. Prospective college students avoid pursuing undergraduate degrees in the natural sciences with the understanding that they do not offer a steady and sustainable source of income. Science-oriented education is mostly offered in science high schools instead of being implemented or being offered in the basic education curriculum prescribed by the Department of Education. Public schools are short of science textbooks, and in fact, finding a well-stocked and functioning science laboratory is like finding a needle in the haystack. To cap it all, the aforementioned department, the DepEd, the other departments, even considered the removal of science subjects for grades 1 and 2 of the new K-12 program. And this is really unfortunate, it's not sad, but even unfortunate. I also had my brief love affair with science when I was in elementary and high school years. At matatandaan ko, sinasabi ng aking teacher no, na science is fun. And I got interested to that. Gumagawa-gawa ng mga eksperimento. And we were taught to sing, science is fun, science is fun, science is fun for everyone. But because of the lack of, equipment, for a year, pupuntahin ka nga sa science lab at pasisilipin ka lang sa microscope. After that, wala na. So I lost my interest in science. Instead of science is fun, ang interest ko nalipat doon sa recess. So yung kanta namin is, sayang ang pan, sayang ang pan, sayang ang pan, Rizal ni Juan. Dahil recess na yung focus namin. While my only child, Sandro Isagani, was growing up, nakita ko siya nagkakaroon ng interest sa science. And I was really elated. Magkakaroon din ako talaga ng anak na scientifico. Yung aking frustration ay pwedeng gawin ng aking anak. Nakahilig siyang manood ng Dexter. Sa Nickelodeon na yan. But eventually, because, there is really no program for young kids, young students available, especially in the provinces, nawala rin ang interest ng aking anak. My friends, no one spoke truer words than the famous astrophysicist Carl Sagan when he said, quote, "We live in a society exquisitely dependent on science and technology, in which hardly anyone knows nothing about science and technology." Napakasaklap po pakinggan. Despite the sore state of scientific advancement here in the Philippines, I still encourage you, my dear students, the youth of today, to pursue careers in science. There is no better time than now for you to take over the work of our noble scientists, push the boundaries further, and use the knowledge you have obtained in serving our inang bayan. The lessons brought by Typhoon Haiyan or Typhoon Yolanda, I was there in Tacloban 2 days ago, and also in Rojas just the other day. And all the other disasters stand as testament to our country's need for more science professionals. Kailangan kayo, mga siyentipiko, kailangan kayo ng ating mga kababayan at ng ating bayan. In the same way, we must also demand accountability from the government for its abandonment of its mandate to promote and support the furtherance of science and technology in our country, a principle enshrined in our current Constitution. As a member of Congress, I know how much little budget is allotted to science and technology compared, for example, to defense, compared, for example, to debt payments, compared, for example, to pork barrel. And pork barrel is still alive. We should take upon ourselves the task of being advocates of science in our daily activities, in our respective professions, through the formal structures of the government, and even, and most especially, if I may say, in the parliament of the streets. Before I conclude, let me share with you a quote from our hero, Jose Rizal, who is himself a scientist in his own right. He said, "In this useless life that is not consecrated to a great idea, it is like a stone wasted in the field without becoming part of any edifice." Close quote. My dear friends, we only have one life to live, one chance to make a difference, a single opportunity to make this world a better place. Great men and women who came before us has already done so. It is now your turn. It has been said that the true purpose of science is to uplift humanity and not to bury them in the prisons of state and corporate greed. As I already reiterated before, science is in itself a weapon. In the wrong hands, it can destroy millions of lives. But harnessed properly, to address the needs of our people, it can go a long way. It can save lives, it can increase food production, it can advance technology, and it will result to genuine development in helping our nation prosper. Science can help us make a difference. Now, it is yours to take. And to end, I just would like to give this sincere advice to our students. And I am giving this with conviction. Make science and technology serve the best interests of the Filipino people. Mayong hapon, magandang hapon po sa ating lahat.